How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 3.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson broadcasting from 102.3 KRMG in Tulsa, Oklahoma, across the nation. Thanks very much to Tulsa for hosting us. We've got a great crowd of Oklahomans coming tonight to see me. I'll do my best impression of singing OKLAHOMA, Oklahoma, okay. I had to sing that song when I was in fourth grade, and it still is stuck in my head. But we said, like, for next year, we want to do some smaller events around the country instead of one big gathering in Atlanta. We want to come to you guys, and we're working on the logistics. We're starting in Tulsa. I would love to stay in touch with you as we move around the country and be able to get you information. If you text ARMY, ARMY, to the number 33777, we can stay in touch. I can also, as we get activist items for next year, move forward. I want to answer a question some people have sent me. What's the state of play in Congress? I mentioned the slow voting in the West. My buddy Joe Cunningham, program director down in Lafayette, Louisiana, a longtime friend of mine, says that Speaker Johnson is saying we are going to have the majority. The question now is the size of the majority. They believe, from what I'm told, we will not have less than the current majority, which is tiny, but we probably will gain seats. The current understanding is that there will be seats to be gained. Now, I need to spend a few moments before I take time on phone calls. I need to tell you that I think the Democrats are going to have a hard road forward in how they're proceeding. And the reason is because of some of the commentary that's starting to crop up among the voices that the Democrats listen to. Here is Whoopi Goldberg, who has refused, to her credit. By the way, just so you know, I kind of have a soft spot for Whoopi Goldberg because of this. Years ago, she was referred to by someone complimentary as an African American, and she put her hand up. She said, "I am not African. I'm an American. I'm black. Don't use that term with me." And I thought, you know what? She may be a wackadoo leftist, but at least she's got enough sensitivity there. But she's also completely out of touch with the lived experience of the average American. She is a very wealthy person. Let's talk. And she has this idea that actually your groceries are not expensive. Does she go shopping at the local grocery store? I bet if she does, it's Whole Foods.
Let's talk about the real stuff. Your pocketbook's bad, not because the Bidens did anything, not because the economy is bad. Your grocery bills are what they are is because the folks that own the groceries are pigs.
Yeah, but no one articulated that.
Well, yeah. That's what I'm saying, is that let's talk about the reasons why gas is high, not because the Bidens didn't try to help, but because the folks who control that decided, I want more money.
That's not true. You do understand that grocery stores are some of the lowest margin businesses in the country. It's not true. To the extent they're making some profits right now, they've had plenty of losses in the past, but also their profits in relation to everything else, when you actually factor in inflation, they're not much higher than the 3% that they have been. It's simply not true that they're bilking you. This is a left-wing talking point, and this is part of the problem. The left is so mired in left-wing politics and dogma. Consider Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC. I played that clip in the first hour, lecturing people that it's actually misinformation, disinformation. That's the problem. Yesterday, I played you the clip of Mika Brzezinski saying it's actually disinformation. This Democratic congressman says we lost because of disinformation. When you believe your own talking points and your own lies, and you're convinced that everything else is information, you begin to believe that, oh my gosh, yes, actually, it's greedflation. It's the greedy businesses. It's not true. It's not actually true at all. But this is the sort of stuff they're imbibing. This is the sort of stuff they're believing. You had Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez complaining about misogyny and sexism on the campaign trail. They do not live in touch with the real world. Here's interesting conversation between Dana Bash and David Axelrod on CNN.
One thing that I've heard you say that I completely agree with you on, and we talked about this earlier around the table, is not just about the policies. In fact, it might not be about the policies very much at all. It's about the communication and where you are delivering and how you're delivering that message. And how the Republicans are just light years ahead of Democrats in having their influencers and figuring out the algorithms to find new voters or Democratic voters or disaffected voters or never before people who have paid attention to politics using the internet and doing it on their phone. One influential guy, Dave Portnoy, who has a podcast, Barstool, he is somebody who said after Roe that he thought it was insanity. He thought that the whole country was a mess for a lot of reasons, but that was part of it. He identifies as a moderate/independent, and yet he voted for Donald Trump. Listen to what he said.
The people pulling the strings in the Democratic Party, get rid of them. They've lost the plot. Tonight is on the Democrats. It was a ringing endorsement for the Republicans, Trump, ringing indictment against the Democrats. They got to look themselves in the mirror. This moral superiority complex they have, this arrogance they have, it's not working. It's time to wake up and see that.
Is that just a more blunt way of saying what you told me at the beginning?
So. No, I absolutely think that that's what it is. I don't know if I put it just that way, but I think that he's on point there. The one thing I would disagree with is, Donald Trump was less popular in this exit poll by a small margin than was Kamala Harris. So I don't know whether it was a ringing endorsement of Donald Trump as much as a rejection of the of incumbency, but also of this attitude that he's speaking of. I mean, I think we owe people the respect for what they do and what they mean. When all these blue collar workers and people who do things with their hands in their back, they make this country go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I'm cautious. Well, you know what? Let me throw caution to the wind here. My daughter was telling me of something that happened at her college. Her college, it's a great school. It's my alma mater, great people. It is not a woke school. There are obviously woke professors everywhere. This isn't a hyper-progressive college campus. But in a particular class, there's a girl in the class who uses they, them pronouns. And another girl who is from a rural part of Georgia referred to the visibly obvious girl as she and complimented something she had done or her and got frog marched to the front of the classroom by the professor and yelled at for using the wrong pronouns. We have not. The Democrats have allowed this unfettered narcissism to go forward and names and shames anyone who refuses to go along with it. Y'all, I'm not going to call a single person they. I am not going to use plural pronouns to identify any individual. It violates my religious conscience, which is protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution, as is my right to speech. They have no right to force me to twist reality to conform to their narcissism, nor do they do you. And every single person in America now has to walk around eggshells because of some freaky kid with a short haircut that's pink on top and blue on the bottom and want to know whether they're a Zer, an it, or identifies as a cat. Be damned if I'm going to do it. And Americans are tired of having to walk on eggshells because of the mental health of a bunch of people that Democrats say aren't crazy. Of course, the Democrats got their butt handed to them in this election because they lied about the economy and they're lying about reality. They're lying about basic biology. I can see your Adam's apple, Rachel Levine. And when you stand, you point your feet outward. I don't know if y'all know this, but if you line a group of men and women up and take a picture of them, full head-to-toe picture of a group of men and women standing, the women are more likely than not going to have their feet forward or pointed inward. The men are going to have their feet pointed outward, toes out. There's a great picture of Rachel Levine standing with a group of men and women. And all the men, including Rachel Levine, have their feet pointed out. And all the women have their feet pointed in. We get lectured on manspreading because men actually have an external sexual reproductive organ and it's uncomfortable for them to close their legs on the subway. You're spreading your legs. You're darn right I am because I'm a man. We have these mentally ill progressive white women who want the whole world to conform to their vision of America. They exercise some level of moral superiority over us, and they're the biggest proponents of the pronoun game. The only men who care about the pronoun game have decided they're women, and the only reason we care about transgenderism is because a bunch of dudes who become women have decided we must. And the Democrats want to frog march you to the front of a room and lecture you on pronouns. I tell you the truth, I don't take seriously any person who puts their pronoun selections in their email signature lines. And I want you to listen to me, because I think some of you have sent me your email signature lines with your pronouns in them, and I don't treat you as a serious person. I treat you as someone who's captured by the zeitgeist. You don't think for yourself. You go with the currents. You're not an autonomous person. You're an automaton controlled by the currents of progressive culture. You're not a thoughtful person, and you're not a thinking person. You've let other people outsource your thinking. And you and your narcissism have demanded the rest of us bow to you and your moral superiority when you are at war with the English language and with mental health, and have demanded we must be as well. I will not join you on the front lines of crazy. And the public has rejected this. For the first time since 2004, a Republican presidential candidate has secured the majority popular vote in this country. And the Democrats can sell themselves it was just the economy, and by and large, it was the economy. But it was also the pronouns. It was also the crime. It was also the illegal immigration. Democrats have given up on using mother. Remember, this is in Democratic Party platform documents that you've got to stop using the word mother because it otherizes those who are not. Unhoused. Unhoused. What is an unhoused person? Is that a person you pulled out of a house? I've unhoused him. What is that? You've pantsed him? You've pantsed. Look, he's unhoused now. He's got everything hanging out. I got him on the hook and I gave him a swirly. He's unhoused. No, he's homeless. You don't want to use women. You don't want to use homeless. You want us to use pronouns. You want a pregnant person, not a pregnant woman. The media has complied with this nonsense too. And the American public has given up on being held hostage to the neuroses of mentally ill progressive women. Back in April, Congresswoman Susan Wild, a progressive Pennsylvania congresswoman with her she/her pronouns in her Twitter bio, tweeted, FEC reports today confirmed I have almost 7 times the cash on hand as the entire Republican field. Looking forward to continuing representing Pennsylvania 7 for another term. Incumbent Democratic Congresswoman Wild has conceded the election in the last 5 minutes. Oh my gosh. Oh, it just how y'all I feel like, what did we do to deserve this week? What did we do? What bad thing is going to come about now? Because I just feel like, oh my goodness. Wow. All right, those of you on the phone, be patient with me. I'll get to you, but I ran long in the last segment. I do want to say one small thing here, and I want to get into this David Brooks piece when we come back. Here's one of the problems for the Democrats. A lot of them have made this joke about Donald Trump. It's based on a meme, the leopard eating people's faces party, that you vote for the leopard eating people's faces party, and then you're shocked when the leopards begin eating people's faces. That's what they talked about Donald Trump. Well, they're going to be shocked when Donald Trump does what he says he's going to do. Here's the problem is the Democrats are the ones who've been captured by the leopards eating people's faces parties. I mean, listen to this. Kamala Harris couldn't pick Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania, because she would have angered the Arab voters. So the Jewish voters rejected her, the Pennsylvania voters rejected her, and the Arab voters still rejected her. They are hostage to progressive politics. Kamala Harris could not take a position on Proposition 36 in California that passed with 70% of the vote in every single county in California, including San Francisco, crackdown on crime. She refused to take a position on it because she couldn't anger the progressives. The leopards have eaten the faces of the Democratic Party, and they don't even recognize they are faceless people now. That makes them superheroes in Game of Thrones. That's all they think about. Americans for Prosperity got out and helped win this race. They knocked on over 1 million doors in Georgia. They knocked on over 1 million doors in Pennsylvania. They knocked on over 1 million doors in Wisconsin. They knocked on over 1 million doors in Michigan, around the country, persuading people that they should go participate in the electoral process. They would love to have you on board. You don't have to knock on doors. You can just be the most informed member of your circle of friends. They can even teach you how to go make a persuasive case to your local government about school choice. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. You sign up with AFP. They're the largest leading grassroots organization in the country. They happen to be on the right, and they would love to have you on their side. They engage around the country advancing common sense conservative solutions to the problems that ail us, from the border to schools to supporting families and small businesses. Go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. Sign up with AFP. Be an effective conservative activist across America. Hello, my friends. It is Eric Erickson here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's a beautiful day in Tulsa. Charlie said we landed last night and it felt like it took you 45 minutes to fly over the city. It's just so broad and expansive and gets out in the suburbs, Broken Arrow and the like. It's very nice out here. I don't want to see a tornado, though. There's not going to be one today. 877-973-7425 is the phone number. Zach, you're going to be up next on the Eric Erickson Show. Welcome.
Hello, Eric. How's it going?
Great. How are you?
I'm doing good. So I had a question. I've been listening to you and Chip Roy. I've read Conservative Sensibility, so I'm convinced that small government's a good thing. And it looks like with reconciliation that the Republicans are going to be able to really shrink government and, if not delete some bureaucratic agencies. But there's also some good regulations. So, like, you can't be paid in wooden nickels. You have to be paid in actual currency. And you can't dump industrial waste in rivers. So what does Republican enforcement look like whenever those bureaucracies get gutted or deleted?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so let's take what the deregulation is. So there are plenty of studies. The American Enterprise Institute has done a study on this. The Hudson Institute has. The Manhattan Institute has. The Pacific Institute has, particularly in California with its regulations, that every time regulations go up, the litigation and legal costs of businesses pull from the productive cost centers of a business. So we do have a lot of regulations in this country that none of us want to go away. Like, as you said, we don't want coal ash being poured into our rivers and poisoning our water supplies. None of us do. The Democrats always scare people and say the Republicans will get rid of this. That's what they mean by deregulation. No. What deregulation does mean, however, though, is that we don't need these super tight standards on cars in this country that drive up the cost of a car to the middle class. It's very difficult now for a person in the middle class to buy a new car at a reasonable price because the federal government has regulated so much on cars in the name of safety. And they haven't done a cost-benefit analysis for those safety features. So get rid of some of those. In banking regulations, this is a very good one. Many Americans would prefer to use a local community bank instead of one of the national banks. But the federal regulators in the last 4 years of the Biden administration have imposed so many regulations on community banks that it's requiring community banks to meet the standards of the national banks that have billions with a B in their accounts instead of millions with an M. You get rid of those regulations, you would allow more Americans to use community banks that tend to be more local, involved in local communities, and actually are more stable than a lot of the big banks that we've made too big to fail. So you get rid of those regulations, you create jobs in the banking industry, you create new paths of revenue and investment in the country through these community banks. It would spur the economy. Take, for example, the gas stove situations. What we've done with the cost and regulations of, for example, Freon and coolants and air conditioners and gas stoves and things like that, we have driven up the cost of manufacturing for new stoves, new water heaters, new washers, new dryers, new dishwashers, new refrigerators, and those products don't last as long anymore. There's this grand conspiracy out there from some people you probably heard, Zach, of the refrigerators, they don't last like they used to. My grandparents' refrigerator from the 1950s is still going strong, and mine that I bought 10 years ago is broken. Well, yes, because your grandparents had a refrigerator that, one, at the time cost a lot more than yours, but also used a lot harder parts. It used more metal tubing, things like that, not plastic tubing. A lot of refrigerators and dishwashers and dryers and things that are made today use cheaper parts because of the costs, but also because of regulations due to power efficiency. We've insisted on so much green energy, power efficiency, energy conservation in consumer products that those products use cheaper parts. They break down quicker. They don't last as long. Look at a lot of the new vehicles that are out there now. A lot of new vehicles are glorified computers on wheels, and they do so for efficiency rules. They do so for safety rules. They do so for fuel economy rules, and computers break. And you can't fix it. You can't go to your local auto mechanic and get him to fix your brand new car because the auto mechanic isn't proficient in the computer programming of General Motors, Ford, or Stellantis anymore. It makes it very difficult to do, and that drives up the costs. We can deregulate in that regard without compromising people's safety, without compromising the water, and without compromising the air, but we can do it in a way that lowers costs to businesses and lowers costs to consumers, and we probably should. Along those lines, I want to read for you part of this. This is from David Brooks, probably one of the more insightful people in the center. He writes at the New York Times. He was one of the people to raise an alarm for Democrats a while back that they were growing out of touch with Americans. And he has this piece in the New York Times, Voters to Elites, Do You See Me Now? We have entered a new era in politics. For the past 40 years or so, we lived in the information age. Those of us in the educated class decided, with some justification, that the post-industrial economy would be built by people like ourselves. So we tailored social policies to meet our needs. Our education policy pushed people towards the course we followed, 4-year colleges, so that they would be qualified for the jobs of the future. Meanwhile, vocational training withered. We embraced a free trade policy that moved industrial jobs to low-cost countries overseas so that we could focus our energies on knowledge economy enterprises run by people with advanced degrees. The financial and consulting sector mushroomed while manufacturing employment shriveled. Geography was deemed unimportant. If capital and high-skilled labor wanted to cluster in Austin, San Francisco, and Washington, it didn't really matter that what happened to all those other communities left behind. Immigration policies gave highly educated people access to low-wage labor, while less skilled workers faced new competition. We shifted toward green technologies favored by people who work in pixels, and we disfavored people in manufacturing and transportation whose livelihoods depend on fossil fuels. That great sucking sound you heard was the redistribution of respect. People who climbed the academic ladder were feted with accolades, while those who didn't were rendered invisible. That situation was particularly hard on boys. By high school, 2/3 of the students in the top 10% of the class are girls, while about 2/3 of the students in the bottom decile are boys. Schools are not set up for male success. That has lifelong personal and now national consequences. Society worked as a vast segregation system, elevating academically gifted above everybody else. Before long, the diploma divide became the most important chasm in American life. High school graduates die 9 years sooner than college-educated people. They die of opioid overdoses at 6 times the rate. They marry less. They divorce more. They're more likely to have a child out of wedlock. They're more likely to be obese. A recent American Enterprise Institute study found that 24% of people who graduated from high school at most have no close friends. They're less likely than college grads to visit public spaces or join community groups or sports leagues. They don't speak in the right social justice jargon or hold the sort of luxury beliefs that are markers of public virtue. The chasms led to a loss of faith, a loss of trust, and a sense of betrayal. 9 days before the election, I visited a Christian nationalist church in Tennessee. The service was illuminated by genuine faith. It is true, but also a corrosive atmosphere of bitterness, aggression, betrayal. As the pastor went on about the Judases who seek to destroy us, the phrase dark world popped into my head. An image of a people who perceive themselves to be living under constant threat and in a culture of extreme distrust. These people and many other Americans weren't interested in the politics of joy that Kamala Harris and the other law school grads were offering. The Democratic Party has one job: to combat inequality. Here was a great chasm of inequality right before their noses, and somehow many Democrats didn't see it. Many on the left focus on racial inequality, gender inequality, LGBTQ inequality. I guess it's hard to focus on class inequality when you went to a college with a multi-billion-dollar endowment and do environmental greenwashing and diversity seminars for a major corporation. Donald Trump is a monstrous narcissist, but there's something off about an educated class that looks in the mirror of society and sees only itself. As the left veered towards identitarian performance art, Donald Trump jumped into the class war with both feet. His queen-born resentment of the Manhattan elite dovetailed magically with the class animosity being felt by rural people across the country. His message was simple: these people have betrayed you, and they are morons to boot. In 2024, he built the very thing the Democratic Party once tried to build: a multiracial working-class majority. His support surged among Black and Hispanic workers. He recorded astonishing gains in places like New Jersey, the Bronx, Chicago, Dallas, and Houston. According to the NBC exit polls, he won 1/3 of voters of color. He's the first Republican to win a majority of the votes in 20 years. The Democrats obviously have to do some major rethinking. The Biden administration tried to woo the working class with subsidies and stimulus, but there's no economic solution to what is primarily a crisis of respect. There will be some on the left who will say Trump Trump won because of inherent racism, sexism, and authoritarianism of the American people. Apparently, these people love losing and want to do it again and again and again. The rest of us need to look at this result with humility. American voters are not always wise, but they are generally sensible, and they have something to teach us. My initial thought is that I have to re-examine my own priors. I'm a moderate. I like it when Democratic candidates run to the center. But I have to confess that Harris did that pretty effectively, and it didn't work. Maybe the Democrats have to embrace a Bernie Sanders-style disruption, something that will make people like me feel uncomfortable. Can the Democratic Party do this? Can the party of universities, the affluent suburbs, and hipster urban cores do this? Donald Trump hijacked a corporate party, which hardly seems like a vehicle for proletariat revolution, and did exactly that. Those of us who condescend to Trump should feel humbled. He did something none of us could do. There's one fatal flaw in this David Brooks piece, though. Did you get it? Did you get it? My initial thoughts is that I have to re-examine my own priors. I'm a moderate. I like it when Democratic candidates run to the center. But I have to confess that Harris did that pretty effectively, and it didn't work. The hell you say? Kamala Harris couldn't stake out a position on Proposition 36 in California because she didn't want to divide the left. Kamala Harris came out for boys and girls sports because she didn't want to divide the left. Kamala Harris couldn't say the phrase illegal alien because she didn't want to offend the left. Kamala Harris couldn't come out for a secure border because she didn't want to offend the left. Kamala Harris stood for nothing and did nothing that would alienate her from the left. She even walked back her support from fracking, which cost her Pennsylvania, along with the fact that she couldn't go ahead and give a Jewish man a vice presidential nomination because of what it would do to the left. She didn't run as a moderate. The fact that David Brooks thinks she runs as a moderate shows you David Brooks is still in a bubble with a lot of these people, but he got it otherwise right. The Democrats don't respect you. They want to reprogram you. They believe that they can change words. They change reality. If they don't say homeless, they say unhoused. Well, that gets rid of the homelessness problem. They don't say mother and they don't say father because they don't want to offend people who aren't. They can't say illegal alien. They lecture you on undocumented or migrant. Migrant's the favorite word now. The Democrats have embraced this Marxist idea that if you just change the language, you change reality. And you know what the voters did? The voters changed the reality of Democratic power because they dissent. And when the Democrats scream racism, sexism, homophobia, and the like, they're just showing how out of touch they are. Stacey Abrams, I want you to listen to some of this. Yep, Governor Stacey Abrams, the president of Earth and governor of Georgia. Listen to some of this. If I can route my speaker. Oh, you know what? I muted her. Well, my gosh, I did something brilliant and didn't even realize it. I muted Stacey Abrams, and now I can't pull up her audio, and that's just fine with me. But she's talking about we fought, we resisted, and we built, and now we need to fight and resist and build more. No, Stacey Abrams, you need to listen to the working class and realize you don't resist them, you respect them. Vision Computers will respect you if you want to build a new computer for you, for your home, for your kid, for your office. They'll sit with you. They'll work with you. They'll explain stuff to you in ways you understand, and they won't treat you like you're an idiot. They understand computer buying can be complex these days, what with RAM and ROM and GPUs and CPUs and everything else. And do you still need the CD drive in the 21st century? Reach out to them. You get their tech support for free if you buy a computer with them. And that tech support, faster than a Google search, you can get the answer to what's going on with your computer. All you do is call them at 404-COMPUTER. Go to visioncomputers.com. Now, let's say you've already got a computer. You don't need a new computer, but you sure could use their tech support. Well, for $179 a year, they'll give you their tech support. And you get that number, and you call them 15 seconds or less, faster than you can find a search on Google. They will tell you what's going on with your computer. They can even remote in. They can help you with email support. They can help you with printer support. They can do it for your whole business, so you don't have to spend six figures on an in-house IT guy. You let Vision help you. Call them at 404-COMPUTE. Tell them Eric sent you. You're going to save even more money. 404-COMPUTE or visioncomputers.com. Let Vision help you. Hello there. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is, well, too late. You can't have the phone number. I'm going to be doing a listener event with the fine folks of Tulsa. If you're listening out there, is one of our affiliates. We're happy to come hang out with you guys as well. I even pay my travel costs because I know what economics are like for radio stations out there. Just want to hang out with the listeners. So happy to do it. Y'all, I want to end with a piece by a guy I know I like. I'm going to leave his name out there, leave his name out. But he's got a piece, and the headline is "The Strategic Failure of 2024 was written in 2021." And the subtitle is "President Biden Bet Everything on the Innate Goodness of the American People. We should learn from his mistake." The people who hate Donald Trump, the people who have drifted left over time, they hate Americans. You got to think like them, look like them, talk like them, or they hate you. And it's, y'all, it breaks my heart to see people decide that. I saw that Harry Sisson kid. He's the progressive social media influencer who defended Joe Biden until the moment Joe Biden went there, and then suddenly Kamala Harris was the greatest thing ever. Poor kid. Never seen I mean, I know it happens in Thailand, but I've just never seen a kid prostitute himself that much in America. And it's been remarkable to watch him. And after it was over, America failed us. America failed us. You know, I replied to him and said, "Buddy, I don't know you. And I know you're young and new at this. But never blame Americans. You may not think they get it right, but there's an innate sensibility in them, the American public. They're good people. They're good people. Never blame America." You know, when Donald Trump lost in 2020, even Rush Limbaugh was still around. He said, "Don't blame the American people." When Barack Obama was elected in 2008, he said, "Don't blame the American people. Don't ever blame the American public." You may sometimes disagree with your fellow Americans, but they are voting in their interest. They're voting what they think is best for them, and it may not be best for you at the moment, but that's the way our republic functions. And to see the left now go down this dark path of the American people are not good, that leads to tyranny. When you believe the people are bad, that leads you to tyranny. And that's what this piece demands, is that Joe Biden didn't go enough to destroy the American republic to protect it from Donald Trump, which is everything you need to know about where we're headed with the Democrats.